Hey everyone, it's Tina Hogan Grant here with my Cuppa A Natter that I like to do twice a month on a Monday. I like to bring authors into my home. We talk about books, writing, life as an author, and whatever comes to mind. And this evening I have Britt Mooney joining me. How are you doing this evening, sir?
I'm doing. How you doing?
I'm doing really good. I'm excited to have you. What part of the states are you from?
I'm in the Atlanta area here for a long time. I've lived a couple of there, but mostly the Atlanta area, suburbs.
Wonderful. Okay, before we get started with your book, can you just give a little background to yourself and whatever you want to share with the rest of the world?
A little background. Well, if I go for the part, I I learned how to read at a age. My mother was I'm the firstborn, and my mother was a teacher, and of course she stopped that. When I was at the time in the 70s. So here I was, and I liked to read a lot. Then she had a second kid, my brother, and instead of her reading to me, she taught me how to read at 4 years old. So I did myself. And so reading at a very young age, and I loved stories, and grade, and I was getting in trouble a lot. I would get bored at school. I would whatever. I'd do well and work off because read way above my reading in second grade, and so my teacher trouble with her, and she thought I was a bad kid. But my second teacher, she disagreed. She looked at me antsy and getting in trouble while kids were working on stuff, and she said, "Britt, why don't you story?" I thought that was the best I'd ever heard. I thought a story, like something in my brain clicked. Like I could write a story like I love reading about. Like I could do that. That seems like a pretty amazing thing. So I did, and so my work on purpose early so I could time to write her story. All through
That
the rest
is
of the
awesome.
all the way throughout the rest of the year, I would work on purpose and sit there and write her stories. And usually, like as most writers, knock on Buck Rogers or Star Wars, but that's where I got started. I sort of to learn how to write stories. And what's really interesting is I told that story so many times, years. Recently, maybe about 10 years ago or more, somebody asked me, like, did you stay in contact teacher? And I said, no, second grade stuff. But I thought, well, maybe I could try to track her down. So between Facebook, I called the elementary school, and they gave me a little bit of information. I tracked her down on Facebook. We are friends on Facebook.
Wow.
There are a couple of my books, and just so great. Now she's retired, of course, because I'm old. So, but she retired, lived in Alabama on a lake somewhere, and she and I connect every now and then on Facebook. So
That is awesome. That is awesome. When you're talking, you're cutting out a little bit. Am I cutting out when I'm talking to you?
no, you're not.
But I'm hearing like once in a while you're just cutting out. And I've seen
Okay.
a couple of our readers are saying the same thing. Let's hope it goes away, whatever the issue is.
Okay.
I want to see who's here. We've got a lot of people joining us. We have Karen. She says, "Hey, welcome, Britt." And Tammy is here. She says, "Hello." We
Hello.
have Karen Lloyd Geeling. Happy to help Tina and Britt. I think that's supposed to be hello. And then we have Karen Wright. You're a new author. Virgie is here. Lori Chasco is here. Hey, Lori. Let's see, Karen Lloyd Geeling. My daughter is visiting a friend until Wednesday in Atlanta. There we go. Virgie says you are a new author. Lori says, I started reading it for also. What a brilliant story, though. I love that story. Britt, you are going in and out. See, I saw a couple of those. I just wanted to bring that up. But I want to make sure I'm not getting cut out, too, because I want to find out if it's your internet or my internet. Karen says, you are good, Tina. Okay. And then Peggy is here. Hey, Peggy. Okay, Britt. Well, let's talk about this wonderful book. Number one, is this your debut? Have you written other books?
I've written other books. It was my first traditionally novel, so I published before. I have.
Okay, you are cutting out. I'm not getting any volume. I lost your volume completely.
Is it my mic? Is that what?
Might be your mic. And this is what happens when we go live. This is the fun of going live. It might be your mic, but you're just like cutting out.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, but you're still cutting out. I guess we're going to just have to make the most of it. This is technology, and this is the fun of going live. It's okay. We'll make it work. It's okay. We'll make it work. But, okay, the book is called Shield of the King. Do you have a copy to hold up? There it is. I love this cover. Now, did you design that cover?
I designed it along with the publisher. So I have self-publishers that I published myself, and it's all in the same world, but this series with a new. It's in the same. You don't have to have other stuff.
Okay, this audio is really bad. I'm not sure if we can continue with this. I'm not sure what the problem is. Can I ask you to do one thing? If the readers will bear with me, do you want to try going out of the studio and coming back in?
Yeah.
Try that. Just exit completely and come back in. Sorry, guys, but I am not getting much of him when he's talking. And I want to see if we can fix this. The joys of going live. We'll see what we can do. So how is everyone doing? Hi, Karen. She says, things happen. Hopefully it'll be okay. I hope so. I mean, I hate this technology and I complain about it all the time. Diane, hello. I have problems seeing you all. Love you all. Can't wait to see. Love the cover. And then Barbara, I saw a post from Barbara said she couldn't find the chat on my live page. It should be there, Barbara. On a positive note, well, thank you very much, Karen. You're the sweetest. You are the sweetest. I'm working, bored out of my mind, very slow. Well, we are here to entertain you. Hopefully, Britt will be back. But this is what happens when you go live. But I could not hear him at all. And I'm sure it wasn't just me. Please give me verification that you guys were having the same issues too, that he was going in and out when he was talking. It wasn't just me. And Britt is back. Let's see if we can bring him up. Hey, Britt.
Hello. How's this?
I'm hearing you now, but I guess we're going to have to just stick with it. But you came in fine just then. Say a few words.
Okay, hold on. Let me make sure everything's.
I'm hearing you now. I'm hearing you now.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Coming out?
No, we're still hearing you. I'll let you know when you start breaking up. But this is, like I said, this is the joy of going live. It is what it is. We just make the best of it. That's all we can do. Now, where were we? The cover. Let's see that beautiful book again. Okay, and it's called The Shields of the King. Gorgeous cover. And without giving too much away, can you just give us a little outline to the book without giving too much away, and let us know when it was published?
So it was published back in January. And Shield of the King, about a young woman. Her name is Elowen, and she has been raised by her father, who's a single dad. She doesn't know her mother, and she knows that her dad was a general, and a hero of the kingdom, sort of. And she's been seeing him as a warrior. She has a dream of becoming a warrior like her father, but in her, instead of using like a medieval culture, I did more of like a Persian Eastern culture for this fantasy. And so she's not supposed to be a warrior. So, you know, it's not a thing for girls, sort of thing. And so in the beginning, it's kind of part of what I'll read from today when we get there. But someone from the king comes and wants her father to come to capital and help save the king from an assassin plot. There's an assassin plot. And so basically she goes with her father to the capital and starts to learn about, you know, her father's background and learns more about the world. It's kind of a coming of age thing. The world is very divided, and what she has to figure out is how can she be a hero without taking sides in this big divided culture. It's kind of like a war where people hate each other and all this, you know, animosity going on. So she has to kind of figure out, what does it mean in such a divided world? Well, hate, but she feels she should, you know, want the best for everybody, not just for one side or the other. And so, you know, of course, then there's all sorts of stuff with her dad, but it's a real story about what it means to be in a divided sort of world.
Interesting. What inspired this book?
Things. First of all, something, like I said, that wasn't your normal medieval fantasy. I wanted to put it in a sort of a different culture. I have two daughters. They are right now 16 and 14. So I wanted to do something that was a little empowering to girls, in sense of what it means for to kind of grow up in a world where, you know, people complain about it, but we kind of live in this world in America where there's a lot of animosity politically between different people, and there's lots of conflicts and lots of calling going on. And what does it mean for someone to try to find, like,
Okay, I just lost your audio.
How about that?
Okay, there we go. There we go.
It just muted for some reason. But what does it mean to live, to try to find another way? Because I think a lot of people, because there's such division, especially young people nowadays, like they've done polls and stuff where they find that like a large number of young people are completely disenfranchised with all the political system, all the stuff that's going on, because all they see is fighting between two people. They don't see solutions. They don't. So I wanted to try to kind of dig into some of that. Like, what does it mean to be a hero and have like a hero's journey within a world that's like that, you know, but of course there's also sword fights and also, you know, action and adventure.
Of course, gotta have that in there.
But, and big monsters and the whole thing. So, but the sort of the emotional journey that she has to take is she's kind of a child from both sides. So she has to figure out instead of taking sides, how can we bring people together? How can we treat all people with dignity and do what's right in the midst of all that?
She needs to be president. Really, bring us all back together here. What do you think? But what is the age group for this book?
This is YA, so it's definitely anywhere 13, 14 and up, older middle school and up. It is more violent, but it's not any more violent than most of the stuff that's out there now.
Look what's on TV. I mean,
with YA and so it's PG-13 sort of violence, so it's not like it's it's like more Lord of the Rings sort of violence sort of thing.
Okay, all right, that makes sense. Now, is this a standalone or is it part of the series, or will be part of the series?
Oh no, it's part of a series. I've started working. I haven't started writing the rough draft, but I've started really working on the outline and the beats and the steps of starting. I'm really close to starting the next book. So yeah, I've got at least 4 books planned, and my publisher and I are, we're looking through that sort of process about what's next for next year, publishing book 2 next year. And I've already had people who are like, where's book 2? And I'm like, well, it takes time. But I'm
reading some of your reviews. I always like to, get an outline of the author I'm going to be talking to. So I checked out your bio on Amazon, and you have some fantastic reviews. Beautiful 5-star reviews. Can't wait for book 2. Hurry up and write book 2. So I was really impressed with the reviews. But also what struck me, and I was going to ask you about this, your publisher is Yorkshire Publishing.
Mm-hmm.
Are they in England?
No, they're not.
Because I'm from Yorkshire. I'm from Yorkshire.
Okay, that's really cool.
Now, wait a minute. I wanted to ask you.
No, they are. They're a small publisher, and it was one of those. I'd done so much self-publishing on the fiction side that I was going to self-publish this one too, but I met this guy at a book fair thing, and we started talking about fantasy, and we liked a lot of the same writers and Brandon Sanderson and all that sort of stuff. And so I gave him a couple of my books, and then he got very excited and wanted. So they want to do a lot more of fantasy fiction and that sort of stuff at their publishing house. So
I wonder why I picked the name Yorkshire.
That's a great question. I really don't know why. I should ask him.
I want to know, because I got the impression they were in England.
Yeah, no, he's actually out in Oklahoma, which really has nothing to do with England.
Nothing like England at all.
No, that's nothing like England.
Okay, I'm going to pop up a few questions. Again, I'm talking with Britt Mooney. His book is Shield of the King. And if you have any questions for him, go ahead and put them up in the comments. As you know, I take little breaks, and I will pop your questions up for Britt to answer. So we have one here from Karen. She's asking, what genre do you like to read, and what genre won't you read?
Oh, wow. The second question, that's a better question. I read pretty much anything. I try to read mostly, because I'm writing in science fiction fantasy. I read mostly fantasy and science fiction, and I try to keep abreast of what's, what are the most recent books, what are some things that I like, what are people doing in publishing. But I literally read a lot of things. I read a lot of history. History was kind of my first job. I was a history teacher for a while. So I read a lot of history. I read a lot of things. The only thing I probably wouldn't read, I've read some, I guess you could call them romances, but
Okay.
Like the trashy romance, like the small paperback that are I like romance when it's a little bit more of a part of a bigger story. Yeah, but I've read Nicholas Sparks. I've read Notebook. I've read a few of his books.
Yeah.
I like to read a lot of different things, because I think it helps me be a better writer in what I'm doing. Even though I might be in the fantasy genre, it helps me with whatever, the drama or the characterization or some of the, give me some different ideas for some things instead of being in a box about it.
And your audio is coming in much better now, so don't touch nothing. Don't touch anything.
Yes, ma'am.
And you said you like sci-fi. I got to turn you on to my dad because he wrote sci-fi.
Oh, that's so cool.
James P. Hogan.
Okay.
Yeah. Have you heard of him? He wrote
No.
36 books. The one that he's
Wow.
most famous for is Inherit the Stars. And that was his debut in 1979. And
Now that book, that title sounds really familiar.
Inherit the Stars. And it's the one after that was Giant Star, Giants of Ganymede, and Voyage from Yesteryear. But that continues on. But Inherit the Stars is the one that continues to outsell all the other ones. And he's being
That sounds really familiar. I might have actually read that book. That's how familiar that sounds. I read a lot. I read a lot of books. But no, that's awesome. That's super cool. Now I haven't had anything published in science fiction yet. I've got a couple manuscripts floating around with a couple publishers, but I haven't, publishing right now is difficult. I don't know.
I mean, I'm self-published. I went to a publisher for my first book, Reckless Beginnings, but it wasn't for me. I'm one of those people that like to be in control, and that was just me. What works for me, what doesn't work for me, might work for others. So the rest of my books I self-published, and then when the contract was up for my debut, I went ahead and made a second edition and published it again. So, cool. But that's what works for me. I see some questions up. Let's pop up some questions here. Okay, we have one from Diane. She wants to know, how many books have you written?
How many books have I written? Not well, obviously more than I've published. So I have
like me.
I've written on Amazon right now. I think I have. I'm about to release another one. So I have, let's see, 4, 5, like 8 on there.
Are they all the same genre? Are they all the same genre?
Well, I've got, so in this series, I mean, in this world, the fantasy world, I've got a trilogy, and I've got a novella, and I've got a sequel to that coming out, and then I've got this one. So that's 5. No, that's going to be 6 in that. And then I did some urban fantasy 10 or so years ago. I haven't finished that series yet. I got 2 books out with that. And I published a couple nonfiction books that are not self-published on beer. I've got one. I wrote one book on beer fests in America, and the other one about breweries and the rise of the brewery culture over the last 10, 15 years in America. And
you make your own beer? Is that what?
I have not. I was lucky. So yeah, I kind of got involved in the community, I'm going to say 15 years ago or so, because Georgia was one of the latest states to not legalize, but make it easier for local breweries to start up. A lot of other states had done it, and Georgia being in the South and Bible Belt and all that is one of the latest ones to do that. So I happen to know several people who made their own beer, and I was one of the guys that they would ask to come over and help them and try it and help them drink it. Because, they would make whatever, a big keg of whatever they were making, and they didn't want to drink it all themselves. So
you gladly helped.
So I gladly would come over, and a couple of them were even authors. So, that would be part of our kind of writing thing that we would do. And but anyway, so I got involved in that, and I got to know some people in the brewery industry once breweries started to kind of start up. And then there was a publisher looking for someone to write some books on beer and breweries and stuff. And I was like, I can do that. I can talk to these people. I've got some connections. So it's not, but there's a lot of history in those books, right? Because I went through the history of beer in America and kind of where it came from and how it developed over time. And you know, all that, you know, German immigration and all that fun stuff. So yeah, so I've got those, but
do you
but
have any of
those,
your other books close by to hold up the covers?
oh, I do. Oh,
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Aha, here we go.
so this is Beer Fest USA,
Oh, great cover.
where I went, basically went and, oh, well, I mean, didn't go. I went to a few, but I interviewed a lot of the top beer fests in America, and you know, talked with them, you know, about what they do and why, and then I did one about craft brew and the kind of the craft brew
I love
revolution.
these covers. Did you make those covers?
No, this is Indiana University Press. It's my agent.
Are they on Amazon?
Oh yeah, they're on Amazon. Yeah.
I saw a comment here from Carol. She wrote, "Being from Wisconsin, I'm interested in the beer books."
Wisconsin is the heart of it, right? That's right out there.
And then
Oh,
Diane says, "Hubby loves the German beers." So they are on Amazon.
they are on Amazon.
The beer books, all your other books are on Amazon. Are they paperback, Kindle, Kindle Unlimited? What are they in?
I don't know. These, I don't think these are on. They might have ebooks for these, but I know they've got hardcover and paperback. And yeah, Shield of the King has an ebook and the hardcover. And I've even got a couple audiobooks. So I've got for the novella, I did an audiobook for that. So
Oh, nice.
so
That's
yeah.
great. Okay, I'm going to pop up a couple more questions, and then
Please.
we are going to be honored with a reading from you. And your audio is staying good, so we should be okay with a reading. I want to pop up a couple more questions that I saw. Give me time to scroll. Here's one from Janet. She's asking, who is your favorite author?
Wow, who is my favorite author? It depends on what day you ask me. Probably still, this isn't a very exciting answer, but it's probably still Brandon Sanderson. I'd put Tolkien in there, maybe C.S. Lewis with Narnia.
Good choices.
I mean, I like a lot of the new guys, but as far as consistency, like it's there may be one or two books by Brandon Sanderson that I didn't think were that great, but almost every one of them by him that he's done, from science fiction to YA to everything, it's just, he's just got a great imagination and way of doing things that very similar to how I do things. But I mean, I like Joe Abercrombie. I like Mark Lawrence. I like, I've been reading, I forget her last name, Lee, The Ninth House. I read that one recently. I thought that one was very good. More like horror, urban fantasy. That was a good book.
Did you ever read the Potter series? Harry Potter?
Oh, no, but I'm very familiar with the Harry Potter series because
I think everyone is. I've never read it.
I have not read it. My children love it. My children have read those books, like the whole series, several times.
So I got my grandkids a box set for Christmas, and they love it. And I love J.K. Rowling's story, just how she became published. It's just insane. I want her. It's not luck. She's a great writer. But
she's a great writer, and it was so revolutionary of her. Like, what a brilliant idea to age up her writing as the kids got older.
Yeah, I thought it was brilliant, and just her backstory of riding on the train, and just a brilliant story.
Yeah,
brilliant
absolutely.
Story. Okay, another question is from Karen Geeling. Are your characters based on anyone you know?
Not anymore. In the beginning, they were. Like when writers start out, I don't know if you can help it. I think most writers, when they start out, you establish characters, or you kind of base them on people you know, and I think that's normal. In the beginning, they tell writers write what you know, and so you kind of do that. You kind of put it helps when you're doing dialogue and to kind of picture what people would say. But now I've gotten to the point where my characters really aren't based on any one person. I mean, I really try to do a much more original job of coming up with who the characters are, what do they want, and kind of, you know, going through all those sort of.
Well, I think subconsciously when I write a book, I don't see it when I'm writing, but when I go back and read the book, I go, oh, wait a minute, that sounds a little like so-and-so. And I don't I catch it when I'm writing, and it would just be a little taste or something.
Yeah.
But I'll leave it. I'm not going to change everything because I picked up on something I know. And I also, now, can you relate to this? Subconsciously, I also put myself in the book. Not technically me, but something I might like, something I like to do in life, something I might say frequently.
Oh, absolutely.
Often drop myself in it.
And I really, I think creativity, I believe great stories change the world. That's kind of my motto. And my YouTube channel, Great Stories Change the World, because I really do feel like the process of writing and creating, it opens up your mind to a whole bunch of different things. So whether I'm, I put myself in the shoes of people who aren't like me, whether it's, a 16-year-old female elf girl or something.
Right.
I mean, I'm putting myself in that position and thinking what would that character do, and but I think that helps us to relate to other people. That's just
it makes a lot of sense to me. It does,
because it helps you, whether or not you agree with them or not. You can, that's why the best villains are people that you may disagree with them, but you at least go, well, I can understand. I mean, I understand how they got where they are, and I think good writers are able to sort of do that. Look at things from different perspectives. And I think that's what makes writing interesting to people is that it's just creative in that sense. It opens.
It is. And what I like is, we escape this world. Sometimes it can get crazy, and we can create a world that we want to go visit once in a while or just enjoy.
Right. Yeah.
It's a nice escape. One more question, and then we're gonna listen to you read. And it is from Diane. She's asking, do you plot your books or are you a pantser?
No, I'm definitely not a pantser. So and I think most plotters are this way. So for me as a plotter, what I do is I have a very broad outline. But for me, I have to know the emotional arc of what my characters are supposed to do. Where am I taking them?
Right.
And then I have maybe 5 key scenes, that I want to get through in 100,000 words or whatever, 80,000 words. But on the way, I'm more discovery. Like how I get there is I'm putting myself in the moment, and then things are happening. And so sometimes characters do things that I wasn't expecting them to do, because that's when you've kind of created a real character, is when they do something and you're like, oh, well, I didn't have that planned,
Do you let it be, or do you try?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if it feels like, there was, but this isn't one of my other books, but there was something that happened when a character did something, and she got very upset about something, and I had to stop. Like after the scene was over, I had to stop and go, I had to try to figure out, why was she so upset? Like it felt right, but
you had to analyze it.
I had to psychoanalyze my own character, be like, why was she?
I love that.
Oh, it was because her dad died, and because this happened, and then that's why. Like but it was so real in the moment that I was like, no, that's what has to happen. But
exactly. And that's what my readers about, because I'm a pantser, and I'll sit down and I'll let my characters talk to me. And they will surprise the heck out of me, but I let it be. And I say,
Yeah.
this is their story. I'm just at the keyboard. So whatever they tell me, it's what it's going to be. And
Yeah.
if I try and change it, it sounds fake.
Yeah.
So
Oh, and so there have been moments, like I said, in books where, like, there have been times I've thought I'm going to kill this. Like, that's part of my story. Like, I'm going to kill this person. Like that. And then they won't die. And I'm like, wait a minute. Like, but it was so natural. Or the other thing happened, like, I got to the end of one book and like, okay, oh my gosh, this person is going to die. Like, like I was writing it. Like, I was like, oh, I didn't know this was going to happen. Like, I had plans for that character in the next book, but what am I going to do? Like, but it had to happen. Like, I think there, you still have to kind of get in that
you have to go with it.
You have to go in that bit. But that, to me, that's part of creating a good character is when they, like you're saying, whether or not, you know, even if I might not be a discovery writer pantser all the way, but still they have to be real to you, which is sort of schizophrenic when you think about it, but still, but that's something my wife says all the time, you know, like if I'm staring off into space, she's like, are you in book world? Like, who, like, what character are you talking to? You know, like she knows.
Yeah.
Like,
I used to say that with my dad when we were growing up, because I was a teenager, if not younger, when my dad started his writing career in the 70s. And we would all say, okay, Dad, well, whose character you coming down to dinner as? Because it was not Dad. It was totally whoever's in his head. You know?
Yeah, no, well, and I had to learn, like I have to now, I've learned consciously, like, okay, I have to put it away and it'll be there in the morning, like, or later or whatever. If I get back to it, I have to be present with my family right now. Like, you know, that's important. So
yeah, it is. It is totally important. Okay, Britt, are you ready to do a reading?
I am ready. So
okay, let's do that. Your audio's coming in good. And then afterwards, I see some more questions you can pop up from readers. So I'm going to be quiet and give it over to you.
all right, so this is the part of the story I was talking about when she and her father are home alone, and, you know, this is the kind of the inciting incident in a sense, when a courier comes and has said the king needs you. And oh, and by the way, the reason why the king needs you is you were this super special agent for the king. And the daughter didn't know. Like, the daughter had no clue that her father was like this super important guy. So the courier's leaving. So the courier swung the horse around and left without acknowledging me at all. That's it's told from her first person, Elwyn's first person. The hoofbeats grew faint, the courier out of earshot, when I jumped to father's side and caught his eye. Why did you never tell me? He blinked from staring at the dark, distant figure of the courier and horse, like from a dream. Then his dark eyes met mine. It is not the way. He spun on his heel and went back into the house. Not the way? I followed him. You tell me everything else, every battle, every campaign, all the stories. Reaching the kitchen, he stopped and faced me. He straightened, and in the dim lamplight of the kitchen, he transformed. Not my father, a killer, a warrior, cold and hard. Not all of them. My chest heaved with a short breath, but I pressed him. Is it also not the way to educate your daughter? Definitely not the way to teach her weapons and battle strategy. Why is this different? Father sighed and turned away from me, his voice so low I strained to hear him. Every shield is sworn to secrecy about what we do, what I did. His shoulders slumped. As an officer in the Corps, I was a hero, fighting against enemies I could see. I was an elf of honor, my opponent standing before me. Even as champion of Kyla, I worked hard and earned that. But as a shield, I did things that needed to be done. Dark things. To protect the king, yes, but things no one could know, not even you. So much pain in his voice. I took another step toward him. Why does he want you now, the king? His lips became a line. I do not know. Not to compete, Baruch had said. He called you as shield. That means something for the king, something personal. The Kaela is a time when elves, humans, and dwarves from across Eris come to celebrate and compete in peace. There are also opportunities for those who seek to do evil. The peace of the festival is more fragile than most realize. But why you? He has another shield now. You've retired. My mouth hung open for a moment. You said sworn to secrecy. This is about a mission from your past, information only you would know. Something about the Gobelin rebellion? My father gazed out of the kitchen window open to the night. It doesn't matter. The king calls, I will answer. I leave in the morning. You mean we leave in the morning? His brow furrowed. No, you will stay here. Stay here? No, I'm going with you. Rubbing his jaw, he scanned the kitchen. I'll leave you some coin for supplies while I'm gone, enough for 2 or 3 months, maybe more. You're not listening. I'm going with you. He stood tall. You can't come with me. This is for me alone. I paused, searching his face, the strength within it, and the pain behind his stare. Why did you train me? Why teach me the sword and spear? For a day like today, to protect yourself if one day I had to return to that old life. Waving my arms, I acted like I searched the room around us. Protect myself from who? We live in the middle of nowhere. There is evil in the world. People willing to kill and do whatever they can to get or maintain power. As shield of the king, I made enemies, many of them. I retired here, far away from that world, so you would never have to know it. I trained you so you could survive without me. Without you? My voice cracked. I had nothing here. The elf sons don't want to court a strong wife. The elf daughters want to talk about cooking, keeping house, and having a family one day. I just got expelled from school. I moved within a pace of him, breathing in his scent of leather and worn cloth, studying the handful of scars on his face. You're all I have. When? He said. Can you promise me that you'll return? I said. Will you swear it? His jaw tightened. He said nothing. You taught me to fight, not to run, not to hide, I said. And I'm glad that you did. How can I stay here when all I have goes into danger? Maybe to never return. Would you allow me to go into danger alone? I would not. I sniffed. Then don't ask me to. Please. I know you trained me to keep me safe. What if the owner maker had other plans? What if you trained me so I could save your life, protect you, fight with you? His jaw tightened. I did not train you for this, not for what is ahead, what I may have to do. There will be enemies on every side. Then train me for that. Sounds like you will need someone you can trust. This is not the life I wanted for you. I took a deep breath. Will you refuse the king? Stay here with me? I can't. Then I'm coming with you. You don't know what you ask. I can't allow it. I set my shoulders. I'm not asking. You will have to break my legs and arms to keep me here. Even then, I will try to follow. His face fell. His eyes brimmed with tears. Don't do this. I beg you. I know you dream of being a warrior like the legends, but this will not end the way you think. When this is all done, there will be no heroes, nothing of honor, only sorrow and heartache. No one will sing songs about you or tell your story. The world will not change. It will continue to be evil and corrupt, shrouded in darkness. But you will change. You will never be the same. There will be a stain on your soul no laundry could ever remove. Please, I don't know if I could endure that. I couldn't speak for a few ticks. My face blank, I stared at him for that space of time. I shook my head and then leaned in closer, touching my forehead to his. I put my arms around his neck. Listen to me, I whispered. Even if you went into the 4 hells, I would go with you. I wouldn't let you go alone. We stood like that in the dim light for a long time. Finally, he said, Very well. My father pulled away enough to place his lips on my forehead. Then he removed himself from my embrace. There were wet streaks down his dark cheeks. He turned and went further into the house without another word to me. Alone in the dim kitchen, I stared into the empty space where he had just stood. The honor-maker had given me the day where I bested the master, my father. Why didn't it feel like a victory? I was going with him, but it was like he had just told me goodbye.
Wow. Keep reading. Keep reading.
Chapter 4 is next.
That is very good. And you read that so well. Your voice. You got a great reading voice. That sounded. I want to put up some comments. I wasn't even look. Hold on. Here we go. Great reading. Thank you for reading. Loved it. I like Diane's comment right here. Goodness gracious, sounds fantastic. Thanks for the reading. Brings it to life. Lori says this sounds very exciting.
I love
Diane.
Lori's picture with her daughter.
Uh-huh. Hold on 1 second. Then we have Deep. Thank you for reading. Loving it. Great reading. Makes you want to know more. You made it so intriguing. This is good. Great reading. I enjoyed that a lot. Very good. How many pages is the book?
It's rather short. It's longer than I wanted it to be, but it's pretty short. It's 289 pages.
Oh, that's a good size book.
Yeah, it's right, just under 300. I was trying to make it more like 50,000 words, and it ended up being 70,000 words.
That always happens. We want to make it. We always tend to write over, which is a good thing because then we can make more corrections if we need to and delete stuff we don't really want in the book. So,
well, thankfully, people have said they couldn't put it down, right? I mean, people have said
exactly.
like once they started, they couldn't stop. So it's like obviously, whatever the flow was, I let it flow.
Yeah, and that's one of the biggest compliments when you hear readers saying they couldn't put it down. I love that. I love seeing that. And how long did it take you to write the book? From the minute you sat down, wrote the first word, first paragraph?
I try to write a manuscript in less than 3 months.
Really? That's good.
Well,
now,
I stole that from Stephen King. Stephen King, I read that was something Stephen King did. So, and I was a huge Stephen King fan. I mean, like if you had asked me 30 years ago, 25 years ago, who my favorite author was, it would have been Stephen King. So just staying in that mindset. I think it's hard when it goes 4, 5, 6, 7 months a year. I don't know. There's some people I know who, they've been working on the same book for 20 years. And I know Tolkien did too, but it's just like, I can't, it's like, once I've got it ready, I don't know. Everybody's different, but it's like birthing something. I don't know if that makes sense.
No,
like
it's your baby. It is.
When it's ready, it's like, okay, I got to get it out. I just get it out. Just get it out, whatever it is. And don't worry, and I've learned not to worry about mistakes. I mean, I'm going to have to go back and change stuff.
Yeah, I don't go back.
Get it out.
Once I start writing, I get the bones of that story down. Chapter 1 will not get read again until I finish the manuscript. And then I go back and start filling in, cleaning up before it goes to the editor. For me, I try and when I start to write a book, which I started now, because I just had one come out, I try to discipline myself to write at least 1,000 words a day.
That's great.
That's what works for me. And I try to tell myself, sometimes it doesn't happen. I get really angry with myself when it doesn't, and I have to stop that. But my day's not over until at least 1,000 words are written. And it could be 500 in the morning, go about my day, come back and write another 250 and maybe another 250 before I go to bed. And who knows, maybe another 500. But bedtime doesn't come around until 1,000 are written. Most of the time.
Well, and so I'm actually, when I started out, it was 2,000 words a day. But now that I'm doing a whole lot more, and my kids are older, but I'm with you. I'm 1,000 words a day, and I stop in the middle of a scene. if I'm writing a scene, I don't finish
Oh yeah.
it because
Oh really? You don't finish it?
I do not finish it because if I'm in the middle of a scene, I know where it's going, so I don't have writer's block.
That makes sense.
So when I sit down the next day to write, I know exactly where I am. I remember exactly what I know. I just got to finish the scene. I know what's happening, and so my mind just goes right back into that space of writing. Like I've known, like I'm trying to remember who it was. There was a writer the other day who was talking about he stops in the middle of a sentence. Like that's how he cures writer's block. Like he'll stop in the middle of a sentence because he was like, I know what I was going to say. And so when I start the next day, I just get right back into it. He doesn't have to sit there, and I don't either. You don't have to sit there for like 15 minutes getting your head right. What am I going to write today?
You know exactly where it's going.
I know exactly where I am. But then you're in the flow of that creativity. And so then when the next scene comes in, you just flow right into that next scene. I mean, that's a little trick that I learned. And then I've read.
I have to complete a paragraph. I can't just walk away from a paragraph. I have to complete that paragraph, but it can be in the middle of a chapter or whatever. I don't have to finish the chapter, and I'm good. But I've never walked away. I mean, a lot of times my manuscript will have a bunch of red X's because I don't know what the town's called yet, or I don't know what that character's called yet.
Oh yeah.
And back and that name will come to me, or the character will tell me its name.
So
but it's a ton of red X's. I'll just get to later.
Yeah. Well, and that's part of what I've learned in doing getting the manuscript out. Maybe the names might change, just get it out. Like I can change names, I can change all sorts of things.
Yeah, but the bones is what you want.
The bones is what I want, and you can't edit a blank page, right? That's
exactly. You have without exactly. Have you ever tried writing more than one book at the same time?
Let me think about that. Yes, I have, but not fiction. So like I probably was writing fiction while I was writing one of these. While I was writing one of these, I probably was writing one of my fiction novels. I've got a couple middle grades novels that I want to get published at some point. Like I said, I'm talking with some publishers. We'll see if it happens.
Oh, good luck with that. I hope it does.
But so anyway, somebody asked me like, how many books have you written? There's probably another 5 or 6 books that I've written that
not published yet.
That aren't published yet. So, but it's one of those things of, I have so many ideas. I have to try to focus, like, what am I going to spend my time on? But yeah, that's probably the only time I can really do 2 books at once, is if like one's nonfiction and it's like.
Yeah, I tried it once with 2 fiction, and there was a mess. It was a hot mess. I had characters in the wrong books, and it was just, I'm not doing
now something I have learned how to do that it has been amazing, and I've seen it talked about a couple different places since then, but Brandon Sanderson had a great video where he talked about his crop rotation method.
Crop rotation?
Crop rotation method. And basically, so what he does in a day, and I can't do this in a day because I work and I have to make money. Like I'm not full-time writing yet, but so every day he does brainstorming. So there's one story where he's just brainstorming. Like he's not writing, he's just thinking about stuff. He's got another book that he's writing, the rough draft. He's got a third book. So that's 3 books at once. He's got a third book he's editing. And he's got a 4th book that he's marketing. And his thing is, each one of those 4 takes a different part of your brain.
Yeah.
Like brainstorming is different than the writing.
True. And marketing
and editing is a different part of your brain than just writing or brainstorming. And marketing is a whole other different exercise. And so So he's literally working on 4 books technically, like if you count the marketing, he's working on 3 books at once. This is why he's so prolific, which is why he can put so much stuff out.
How many
He's
books
just
is he
learned.
in?
Oh, I don't know. You'd have to look on his website.
I mean, I'm not a full-time writer either, and I do spend majority of my day writing. I always spend at least an hour marketing, and another hour. I have a Facebook group with 4,500 members, so
That's awesome.
I'm in there, giving content for that. So it seems like my brain is all over the place. So I get why he does this, but how he can brainstorm. I don't brainstorm a book until my book is out there in the book world. I can't even think about another book, but apparently he does every day, brainstorms a new book while he's doing everything else.
Yeah, he's doing some sort of brainstorming. If it's and like I said, I don't know exactly how he's doing it, but how I do it is if I'm, like I've been brainstorming basically book 2 of this, but at the same time, I've written 2 screenplays. That's another thing I'm trying to do. I've written 2 screenplays in the last 6 months, but then I'll write one, and then I'm editing that screenplay while I'm writing while I wrote the second one, and all the while I've been brainstorming on this, and so
you wear many hats. I remember back in the day when my dad was a writer, he got published with Derway Publishers and Bain. All you have to do was write. That was
all you did was turn it in.
Yeah, I mean, he did like I have to admire him for writing a book on a typewriter.
Oh, I know.
I don't know how he did that. I just don't know. But we heard a lot of groans and stomping of the feet upstairs in the office. But yeah, he wrote his first 2 books on a typewriter.
That's so cool. Have you had him? Have you had him on here?
My father passed away 10 years ago. Oh. Yeah, but he had a lot more to say. Brilliant writer. Very proud of him. I'd have loved to have him on my show. I would have loved it. But yeah, he worked full time for 3 years, raising his family. My mother stayed at home, and after 3 years, he was able to quit his job with Honeywell and become a full-time writer. That was pretty cool. And that's all awesome. He did for the rest of his life. But yeah, check him out. Britt, we are running out of time. I mean, this has been a fantastic chat. I'm sorry for the difficulties we had in the beginning, but I have one final question. Okay. First of all, before I get to that final question, are you on Facebook at all other than this chat? And the reason I ask is my author page is where you see this streaming video. There's a lot of questions in these comments I didn't get to. And if you have the time, check out on my author page the questions, because I'm not going to be able to get to them all. But the final question that I ask all the authors is a piece of advice that you would give to a writer that wants to become a published author.
Wow. Well, I would probably, in the modern publishing world, I would really think about what kind of writer you want to be. And it's not a sure formula, one or the other, but there are 2 kinds of writers. There are writers who are writing to get paid, and then there are writers who are writing because they have a story they have to tell. Now, you can kind of be both in a sense, but there's a lot of publishing these days isn't centered around good writing. It's centered around what can we sell.
Yes.
And what they think they can sell. And we're not talking about creative people. See, it used to be, I don't know how, when your dad was publishing books, you had a publisher, and they had a natural distribution center of bookstores, and they knew that if we publish this, we can put it in a whole bunch of bookstores and libraries. And we've got a natural, we'll make some money, and maybe more than some money if it picks up and it gains ground somehow, right? But nowadays, with very few bookstores, and most publishers have not figured out how to do stuff online. They have not figured out how to make money outside of a bookstore, and there aren't any bookstores. So most publishers are scrambling, trying to sell something. They're not really out for great stories, and so if you are someone who just has a great story you want to tell, or you think you have to tell, and you may not get what I just said. Like,
I get
like
it.
For me, there are stories I have to tell. If I never published it, I'd write it. I still write it. You know, I have to write these. But now I also make money. I do marketing. I do content writing. I make money writing in other ways. But but so much of publishing is about testing the market, and what's gonna, what are the trends, and what are the this, and what are the that, and for me, you don't get Tolkien that way. You don't get Lewis that way. You don't get Rowling that way with Harry Potter. You don't get groundbreaking, interesting, creative things that way. And I think that's the kind of stuff that happens with self-publishing. I think if you're the kind who you have a story that you just have to tell, and you don't care about, you're not in this to just have a career necessarily. You're in it because you have to tell great stories that are inside of you. Then I would look into self-publishing. Just because it's difficult, but there's so much out there now that will help you, along the process. And there's people out there. And the only other thing I would say to people who want to be writers is be careful. There's a lot of scams out there. There are a lot of people who are like, oh, you want to be a writer? You can get published tomorrow. Just buy my course. You just got to watch out for that stuff.
Yeah, and the vanity publishers too, that you have to pay them to publish your book.
Right.
Yeah. Great advice, Britt. Great advice. Real quick, before we sign off, your giveaway. You're going to be doing a giveaway, so I want to let the readers know. There it is.
You can have one of these. It's hardcover and everything.
Oh, is it hardcover?
Yeah.
Oh, and is it going to be signed too?
Oh, absolutely. And I will mail it right to whoever the winner is.
Sweet. We'll give you the details via email when we find out who the winner is. And I'm going to be doing my giveaway readers, which is the $5 Amazon gift card from my author page. You need to share the video and tag me in the video. Share it to your favorite groups, your friends, wherever you want to share it. But be sure to tag me, so I know you shared the video and you're entered in the drawing for a $5 Amazon gift card. Britt, this has been a fantastic chat. I'll let you say a few words, good night, and then we'll be signing off.
I so appreciate this conversation. And, I have my own YouTube and I've done some podcasting. So thank you for just letting it be a very natural conversation. I think it was really fun. So I appreciate it. And I love the way you got people's questions coming up on the screen and everything. That was cool. That was good.
Yeah, I love involving the readers. It's a live show. I want them to be a part of it. And I tried to get as many questions as I can, but it's really hard. And which I always ask the authors, if you're on Facebook, just go to the author page. It will be up there and you can see the questions.
I will. I'll check it out.
I know there's a few, and I just feel bad sometimes. Oh my God, all these questions, I can't get to them all, But I appreciate their input. I really do. But Britt, it's been a great chat. Readers, thank you so much for joining us, and I will see you back in the group and announce the winner in a couple of hours, and I will email you, Britt, the winner.
Thank you. Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.